Okay, good afternoon. I said I would return to this question from the 2023 paper 2 when I did this on a Thursday evening, and I got rather tired, so I had to call it a day because I could feel that my brain was struggling my eyes were struggling to stay open and my brain was just struggling full stop. So I left my response to the final question here. The question was, write a program that asks the user to input a date, so I did that, totals the number of seconds that sensors have been activated on the date input, outputs the calculated total in an appropriate message, including the date, for example, so I did that. And when I left it, I said if I was struggling in an exam, or like I was on Thursday evening, just struggling full stop, my way of trying to salvage something was to do two fairly easy things to get 2 out of 6 instead of 0 out of 6. Which for students chasing any kind of grade, it might be those 2 marks that put you over the boundary. So it's really, really important exam technique to try to pick up marks where you can, in case perhaps you can't access other parts of the question. Anyway, I'm going to try and fill this in today and complete this as I should have done on Thursday. A couple of people have commented asking or saying that it would be really helpful if I could share a suitable response with them. So here goes. Now, transparency, I looked at the mark scheme earlier just to remind myself what the marks were for. The mark schemes do give you example answers as well, but I've already started the way that I've started, so I'm going to continue like this. So the first mark was for inputting the date and storing it in a variable. So here's my variable and inputting the date, so I would have got 1 mark for that. The second mark was for using the 2-dimensional arrays to search for some data. Now that's the slightly tricky bit here, to access and use the 2-dimensional arrays. So let's just have a go at this in the way that I personally would go about this. Now, 2D arrays are not everybody's favourite topic by any stretch of the imagination. So this is, and I believe in the mark scheme it did directly reference that the final question usually is there for an extended level of challenge. Okay, so I've got date equals input enter date. I'm going to use a for loop to access the array. So I'm going to say for, we need a counter variable. So let's say for I equals 0 to, I know, let's do this. Let's put length on the first line equals, what's the array called? Let me just go back a page. The array is called array events. Array events. So length equals array events dot length. Okay, so that will store the length of the array. So for I equals 0 to, what am I going to use? Length. I could have possibly named my variable slightly better there. Okay. And then what we're going to say is, so then if array events square brackets going from the 0th to the I, which is the loop counter up here, so 0 to I think that's correct. If that is equal to the date, because if you remember the context of the question, it's sensors that have been activated on the date input. So date, if date is equal to what it finds at the array events in a 2-dimensional array, then need to try and be careful not to write on the OCR area because that doesn't get scanned. What are we going to say? We're going to say, so it's going to be indented, total maybe? Yeah, total equals total plus array events, square brackets. What am I going to use here? Right, so I want the fourth column, so the length. Right, so the fourth column. Remembering that with an index, we count from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. It's the fourth column. And what I'm referring to is the 0th column, the first column, the second column, the third column. I hope that makes sense. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say 3, comma, I. I think that's correct. Okay, that's the end of that if statement. And I'm pretty confident that that would get, if not all 6 marks, then at least 5 of the marks for that final question on paper 2 from 2023. I'm just going to use my iPad here to refer to the mark scheme and tell you what the marks were for. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the marks were for inputting the date and storing in a variable using directly. I'd already ticked that off. Access all 7 indexes 0 to 6 events in the array or loop, which is what I did. I did a loop. Attempt at selection, so it doesn't have to be 100% correct. An attempt at selection will get you the mark. To compare the date input against the date in the array element 0. So if I just move my iPad for a second, that's what I did here. So compared the array element to the date. And if that was true, I increment the total, I add to the total. So I'm 90% confident I would have got 5 out of 6 marks if I wouldn't have got all 6. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Sorry I didn't do it on Thursday. I just literally was going. I could feel my head dropping. You know when you're at the cinema and you fall asleep and your friends are laughing at you. Exactly like that. Anyway, if you're watching this video and you're sitting your exam tomorrow afternoon, good luck. Paper 2 is usually the tougher paper, but I've been led to believe that this year they may be slightly kinder to you than last year, but that wouldn't be too difficult. Good luck tomorrow afternoon. Any questions? Leave me a comment and I will reply this evening. Thanks.